Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we have the INR8 8D. Basically this is a receiver and a full light controller all in one. It can also work as a separate standalone light controller with another Flysky receiver, and it can also work as a separate light controller with any other brand receiver, and also with other brands over iBus or PPM. So yeah, there's an awful lot to this. But basically I've covered the binding process in two-way to the Flysky transmitters, so you can control all the light setup and everything else. And now I'm going to show you how to set the lights up bound two-way to a Flysky transmitter. As I said, there's probably going to be quite a few videos on this because there's a hell of a lot to this little receiver and light controller. But let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we get on with this. Right, so our basic setup is going to be an 8-channel receiver. Then we've got the BVD at the top, so battery voltage detection port. On the side here we have ports D1 to D8. These are light ports and works particularly well with these DUMBORC lighting kits. Now I could do a few more of these LEDs to demo it fully, so we're going to have to switch about with these. And for some reason, I think when I was doing my Skyline, I needed some more LEDs, so I nicked the indicators off this one. So I'm not sure where they've gone. But yeah, these I will link these DUMBORC lighting kits. Some at DUMBORC stuff I don't really like, but these lighting kits seem to be spot on. And they do already have the relevant resistor in line, so it works fine with this receiver. But basically our channel numbering is 1 to 6 and then 7 and 8. Your new ports that you can program to be iBus and S-Bus and everything are ports 8, 7, 6 and 5. BVD is this top port. These are all our light ports, and your negative is the outer pin on both sides. So starting off at D1, we have the left turn signal. So let's pop a set of orange lights in there, and then because we've got a tangled mess and no other orange lights, we're going to go for a blue set of lights for the next D2. This will be our right turn signal. So that's going to be his left and right. Then working his way down, we have daylight running lights. So we've got a set of white lights to be daylight running lights. We're going to pop that in. Then further on, D4 will be headlights. Then as we work your way down the standard configs, D5 is going to give us brake lights. D6 will be a reverse light, so when we get to demoing that, I'm going to swap the daylight running lights into that position so you can see the reverse lights. D7 is set for ambient light, and D8 will be fog light. And there's various ways of triggering these. So I think the next thing we need to do is get this bound up to a transmitter. So let's bring in our original MB4. We're going to press and hold the bind button, and I'm going to supply power to the BVD port just because it's easier. So let's now power on our transmitter. Right, so we've got his receiver in bind mode. I've already shown how to bind this up. So we go to his model, make sure it's on the correct one. Channel number definition, make sure it's on 8. Then we're going to back out of this. We're going to go to as RX bind set, enhanced, start channel steering, and then get us bound up.
Binding successful.
Right, so once we've got our receiver bound, we've got his lights set up. There's a few things we're going to have to do to configure this. So you're going to want to drop into your settings. We're going to want to go to assignment. SW1 you're going to want to set to channel 4, set this to turn and set direction to normal. Then SW1L, we're going to want channel 5, we're going to want this set to turn and we're going to want direction normal. Then TR4, you're going to want this set to normal, channel 3, reverse it and set the steps to 100%. Now I'll show you what this does. If we drop to his main menu and we go on here, and let's change that one to channel 5 so we can see what channel 5's up to. So we've got channel 5 on here now. So as standard, we've got our brake function. So if we're going forward and then we brake, we get his brake lights on, so you see them in background. Then if we turn one way, we've got our right indicator. If we turn the other way, we've got his left indicator. If we go 4 to the right, so 1, 2, 3, and then you see we get as hazard warning lights. If we go 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll then stop. So we're back to normal. If we press our, if we scroll forward on our TR4, which is the bottom dial, so if we scroll forward on this, you'll see channel 3, which is here. So you'll see channel 3 move up. We get first our driving lights, then as headlights. If you scroll it back, your headlight drops out and then your driving lights drop out. Don't forget, we have got more lights on here, but the functions, I'm going to have to swap the LEDs around because we've run out of LEDs. So as a standard mode 1, we've got our indicators. If we've been accelerating and then we brake, we've got his brake light. And if I just move one of the, let's switch the driving lights, I think it is. So if I unplug his driving lights from D3 and I plug them into D6, that should give us reverse lights. So if we've been driving forward, then we brake, we get his brake lights. If we then press again reverse, we get reverse lights. And that is again on D6. Any consecutive presses of backwards would put reverse lights on. If we go back to throttle and then back, we get brake, second press, reverse lights. So it should work same as your ESC's working. So that's nice functionality. So if we unplug his blue set of lights and we set them to D8, that should be his fog lights on channel 5. So these are set to fog lights, but you can use them for anything you like. And then finally, we've got our channel 4. So if we move his blue lights to D7, that should give us our ambient lights. And I do like the way they come on with sort of a faded glow. So you've got ambient lighting, and this is all just the stock setup of what it does. So that covers the stock setup for mode 1. Also for mode 1, if we come across to our lamp setting, you can see on here what it's doing. You'll get a number and then it says AL for ambient lighting. If we change this other channel, we've got channel 8, which is the fog light, so it'll say 8FL and you can see when it's on. And if I just move the blue lights to channel 8, you can see they're on. Then you've got indicators, so we can see left and right, and it will flash depending on which one we've got it set to. So again, if I just switch his blue lights over to that so you can see it, we've got left and we got right, so they're all working. Then we've got our headlights and everything. So if we scroll forward, if I move the fog light back to his driving lights, you can see the first one that comes on is driving lights. Second one is headlights, and it says 4 headlight, 3 driving light. But you can see we're using one channel to control them. But it's nice that we can control these individually. Again, with our brake light, we can see 5 brake, and then if I press reverse again, we've got 6 back for reverse light. And then if I go and put us lights on, you can see what's happening for the emergency lights to turn them on and off. So if we go down to this one, it tells you there's no interface assigned for that light. And if we drop into this menu, you can see exactly what lights are connected to what interface. So it does show you everything that's connected. And on here, so this is where we can switch to the next configuration. Or, so on the receiver itself, you've got a mode button. You can press that and it'll go to the next lighting mode. So if we're on this screen, we go in here, we can press that. That'll change us to our next lighting mode. And the differences on these are in the instructions, but basically, stock configuration, the first lighting mode is 80% brightness, and pretty much everything will work as I've shown you. If you go on to the next configuration mode, it's 100% brightness. So see on here, these are set to flash a lot faster and a lot brighter as brake lights are brighter. And if we come out, so we've still got the same configuration for us headlights and everything. It's just that this one is 100% brightness instead of 80. And then the third actual setting is where it changes slightly, and it's mainly the driving lights and headlights. They're on all the time. So if we press it again to go to our next config, you got your driving lights and headlights, they just stay on constantly. LED brightness is set to only 50%, but you can control the ambient light on this one. So your controls for your headlights won't do anything, but you can still change your ambient light, and you can still change your fog light, and we should still get brake light and then reverse light. And as indicators on this one, they flash slowly, but there's no way to turn the headlights off in this mode. They're just on all the time. Now, tail light wise, you could wire it up to one of the front lights. You can put extra LEDs on these if you want. If we look at the actual instructions, it does tell you the power output limits. So basically each LED output channel can have 2.6 watts and a maximum of 80 milliamp. So that's what you can draw from each one of these. So it would power a number of LEDs quite easily, depending on which LEDs you've got. If we click on the mode again to go back to our first set, so when we're in configuration mode 1, if we go into here, you can have the mode as linked. You can change the brightness. You can change the channel that controls it. You can change the trigger value. So on this, you're saying that channel 3, anywhere between 25% and 100 will trigger the daylight running lights. So as soon as that channel as a whole, so if you take the negative to the positive, as soon as it reaches 25%, it's going to put them on. You can also have it, so if we go into here, you can have it so after a certain percent, they'll turn off. So if you want it to switch from your actual headlights and not put the daylight running lights on, you can play around with the percentage, as you see there, When it gets to the above 75% for the headlights, as daylight running lights turn off, if you wanted them to stay on, you leave the trigger point all the way up at 100. And you can change the effect. So you can have breathing effect, you can have a strobe effect, you can have a fast flash, we can have slow flash or constant on. You can change the actual name of it. So we've got a whole bunch of lights that we can name. We've got a bunch of functions that we can have named. So you've got a whole load of stuff, or you can have it as other.
Please confirm.
I'll just reset that. So there's a lot of things you can change on this. You can control the brightness. So 100%, and you can drop it right down depending on what you need for these lights. As I say, stock is 80%. So you can click the reset at any point. Now if we look, this is for daylight running lights, and if you remember how we set the actual trigger for it, so if I go into headlamp, you can then see we're still using channel 3, but rather than 25 to 100 we're using 75%. So that is what enables us with one channel to just go daylight running lights or headlight. Once it gets above 75, it'll put the headlights on. And now you see why if we set the trigger point top part on the daylight running lights, if we set that to below the trigger point of the headlights, then it'd switch the daylight running lights off when the headlights came on, which is kind of realistic because most cars tend to do that. You've got daylight running lights, and then if you put headlights, you lose your daylight running lights, or they dim. So if you wanted it to look more realistic, yeah, you can do that. Again, you can configure the name and set it to anything you like. You've got different effects. And you can unlink them if you want. So then you've just got them on constant. If you got it in link mode, then you've got control over them. And it's same for everything. You can come down, and if you wanted to set your indicators so they didn't work like this, so if you wanted to set that to the actual arms or buttons on here, what we could do is choose a different channel. So we're using channels 1 to 5. So if we go channel 6, and then we come in and we need to set channel 6 to something. So if we want to set it to our paddles, so we'd come in here, we'd go to combined, function, channel 6. So once we've got that controlling channel 6, you could then change the step. I'm not sure if we're going to need 100 on that. Let's have a look.
Center point.
So this is his right hand indicator set up, and we got it flashing slowly.
Center point.
So if we then come out and we go to our left hand indicator, then we're going to have to move that to channel 6 also. So we're looking for a value of which this turns it on and off. So if pressing that once does that, and then pressing the opposite one will put us other indicator on.
Center point.
And one that BMW drivers won't like, you do have to remember to cancel your indicators. But if we then come back and see what we're doing, so if we press one way, we've got his right hand indicator, press the opposite way to cancel it, press left, we got his left hand indicator, press the opposite to cancel it. If this transmitter supported momentary, you could make that so it's a press and hold. So you could go down that route with it. But I think it's more useful being able to turn your indicators on and off. And I know Tomley's not a big fan of the turning the wheel. The only thing with this, I'm not sure how you'd work to enable your emergency lights. So let's try.
Center point, center point, center point, center point, center point.
No, it's not going to come back enough.
Center, 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 center point.
Yeah, so doing it this way, you're going to have problems with your emergency lights,
Center
but you
point.
do get more realistic indicators. And because we've disconnected it from the steering, that's no longer going to trigger it. You could probably play about with it and get that to work. Ultimately, if we go into here and I change that to channel 6, you'll see what we're doing. So basically, that's how we're using as indicators.
Center point. 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 Center point.
But doing that isn't quick enough to actually change them. If we go back to our lamp settings, what we got on his headlights, I think I've changed that to breathe. So, yeah, we've got strobe, fast, slow, or constant. And again, on all these, you can play around and do whatever you want. If we look at the brake light, so at the bottom for the brake light, we've got it in linked mode, running off channel 2, effect constant. And at the bottom here, brake setup, forward, reverse with brake. You can go into here and you can just have forward with reverse in case you're using it on a crawler and you're not using brake. If we go on that one, basically when it's on drag brake, we've got his red lights on. So let's just move them a bit so you can see them. So whenever you're on brake, it's brake lights. As soon as you start accelerating, they're off. And if you brake and then push further back, you'll get your reverse lights. Obviously I ain't got them plugged in, but you can see on here what they're doing. So push back, you get reverse lights. Whenever you sat still, you're on drag brake, your brake lights are on. Whenever you're moving forward, they're off. And again, fully configurable. You can go in here, you can play around with them, you can change them. So we've got more options. So we've got forward and reverse. We've got drag brake setup, so drag brake light is on, and you can have drag brake light off if you don't want it on. So if we go forward, straight into reverse, let's put it back on screen so we can see. So forward, straight into reverse, we just get back and we don't get brake light at all. If we go back into brake light, come into a brake setup, we can turn his brake light on, and then if you're on your crawler and you go forward, you get no brake light. In the middle, when the vehicle's stood on drag brake, you get a brake light, and when you reverse, you get reverse light. So swings and roundabouts, depends how you want this to work, how you want it to function. Or you can set it to forward with brake and reverse, and then we're back to our normal accelerate, brake, let off, reverse. There's an awful lot of stuff we can mess around with on this. Different values for triggering lights. So this is a fog lamp running on channel 5. We can change its brightness, we can change the control type, and we can change the lighting effect. So you can really play around with this light kit and customize it and make it exactly what you want. The other two modes, so if we switch to mode 2, so config 2, on this one we can come in and we can change the config again, so we can play around with all these and you can set that up how you like. And if we jump again to config 3, and again you got slightly less control on these, but if you just come in you can see the ones that you can actually change and play around with. Don't forget, on config 3 the headlight and the daylight running lights are on constantly, which is why you've got less control, but you still have a lot of settings on the other lights that you can set up. But yeah, there's an awful lot of what you can do on this. And as I say, we can always come onto here and see what you've got assigned to what. So then we've got the one button closing mode. That just turns everything off from what I can tell. So it disables everything. And apparently you can set a button to that. But yeah, you can see which config you're on. It's really nice to be able to play around with these and set them. You can configure your indicators to be on the stalks if you like, rather than on the turning of the wheel. So there's an awful lot of configuration, and there's still more stuff that we can set up on this. As I said, it can run as a light controller with another Flysky receiver. It can also run as a standalone light controller with any manufacturer's receiver. It can replicate the channels, so you can use Y connectors like any other light controller, and you can replicate any number up to 8 channels, and it will control these light outputs depending on how it's set up. But yeah, hell of a lot of configuration you can do on this, hell of a lot of fun. I'm just glad you can take the indicators and set them properly. If you want to change light mode, you can press it on the actual unit itself, and you see it flashes twice or 3 times and then comes back on solid. Or you press it again, it'll flash once and then it's back to config 1. But yeah, really like the way it's really configurable. The most configuration you've got is on config 1, then slightly less on 2 and less on 3, depending on what the lights are set to do. But yeah, I really like this. Again, if you wanted to have tail lights, you could bridge them into the headlight one. So your headlight and tail light, which should work together. You can run them off that. You just have to splice a few more LEDs in. But yeah, other than that, everything's just plug and play. It seems to work really, really easy. And yeah, even down to controlling the brightness of each individual set of LEDs. Likewise, the ambient lights, maybe you don't want them as bright. Maybe you want some breathing, flashing fast, flashing slow. You can change the indicator speeds, everything. But yeah, for me, a big one is being able to set the indicators up or turn signals so they work properly. I really do like that. But yeah, hopefully that covers most of what your questions would be for the basic setup of this. I know basic sounds a bit crazy with how configured this is and how much you can do on it. So that's the setup for the MB4. So if we quickly just power this off and then I power it back on in bind mode.
Signal lost.
Let's power off the MB4.
Shutting down.
So let's have a look if we use a MB4 Plus, so one of the newer transmitters. I'll run you through what we need to do on this. So for this one, we're going to go in. First off, we need to get it connected. So model, give it a name, channel number definitions, 8 channel. We can come out of this, go into RX setup, RX bind, enhanced, steering as your start channel. So once we've got this on, if we drop through as menus, so if we come onto this main screen, so we've got steering throttle channel 3, so we're going to need channel 4 so we can keep an eye on it. We're also going to need channel 5 so we can keep an eye on it, and we're going to need channel 6. So if we come into here, we've now got all those channels that we can see. Now we're going to need to set some stuff up in assignment. So we're going to want channel 4 on here. We're going to want it set to turn. That allows us to turn as channel 4 on and off. We've got, so we can go channel 5 on this one and turn. That'll allow us to do that. Then we want to set up our control for channel 3. So we're going to pick something for channel 3. We're going to go into that. We're going to change our steps to 100 and set as direction to reverse. It just makes more sense. So this should give us our basic functionality. So let's have a look.
Center point.
Yep, if we scroll back, we can turn his headlights or his driving lights on and off.
Center point. Center point. Center point.
So that's not a problem. We've got his throttle, brake, then his reverse, as indicators. So we need to set that up on these so we get his indicators back, because the programming stays on the actual receiver. You can reset it. So let's have a look at our lamp settings. So it'll read what config we're on and everything, and we can see what's happening. We've got no indicators at the moment, so we need to set his indicators up again. So if we come to assignment, we go to this. We want it set as a combined type normal. So let's move that to 100. And then function channel 6. Let's see if we've now got indicators.
Center point.
Yep.
Center point.
So we've now got indicators working. And again, unlike the Pro, this doesn't yet have as switches. We can have a 2 position, a 3 position, but we can't have momentary. So the best we can currently do is set this to 100 and then set it to channel 6, and that should give us our indicators.
Center point.
So also what we can do on this, if we go to our channel names, so channel 6, so we can have that as our turn signals. And then let's have a look what we've got as other channels. So channel 4, if we go into his lamp setup. So channel 4 is our ambient lighting. So what you could do is go into his channel names and then channel 4. Don't think we've got ambient lighting as an option, or we didn't have. But we can have a look through here. And you might have something that you want to call it, so spot lamps. Now there's quite a lot of options on here, but we don't have ambient lighting, but it depends what you actually want it for. So you could have it as spot lamps. And then if we come out, spot lamps on and off.
Center point.
Then if we come back in, let's have a look what other lights we've got. So if we go to here, and then we go to lamp. So we've got a reverse light. And then we've got channel 4 doing headlight and driving lights. So you can come in and we can look at channel 3, sorry, is doing headlamps. So we can come in here. We've got headlight. And if it's one of the pre-made names,
Center point.
so it will tell you when your headlights are on and off. It won't tell you when your driving lights are, but it does tell you headlight on and off.
Center point.
So you get the idea. As you work through, you can find names for these. Channel 5, I believe, is the fog light, but I don't think we've got anything for fog. But we can come in here. We've got F light, so it could be fog light. So if we set that, so fog light on, fog light off. And then if we go to his lamp, yeah, fog light on, fog light off. So yeah, a little bit more functionality over the MB4 as you get the actual names of stuff that you're controlling. You can play around with what you've got these set to. So really just depends how you want to set this up.
Center point.
There's so much configuration you can do on it, but again, on the MB4 Plus, you get to label the channels. Don't think there's anything for turn signals, so there's not a lot we can do for that. You can manually label it, but it doesn't show up as on off. It's only the actual ones that you select in here. So if you set it to T-light, I'm not sure if that'd even work. It's only going to work in one direction, so not the most useful. But you can mess around in this, and you can set them to whatever you like, whatever seems useful, or just so you know what they are. We can come in and label them something useful. Just remember to press enter, and at least when you're configuring your channels, you know what's on what channel. It's nice because you've got full 8 channels to play with. You can mix and match functionality, so you can still use the output on the actual channels. So channel 6 you could match up with a function of the lighting. If you wanted to have a specific light come on when your diffs are locked and unlocked, you could just use your diff lock channel to match up with one of the lighting channels to drive it, and then set it at whatever percentage to do whatever you want to make that light come on or off. But yeah, really nice little lighting kit, and yeah, there's still quite a lot more this thing can do. Not so much as in the lighting, but working with Flysky's other receivers or non-Flysky receivers. So quite nice that as a lighting kit it's not locked down to just Flysky. But I think that's quite long enough for this one, so let's wrap this one up. So there you have it, the INR8 8D light controller setup. I've shown it you there on both the MB4 and the MB4 Plus. The rest of the transmitters will work just the same once we get the firmware updates. And yeah, it's quite an interesting, quite a powerful bit of kit. Nice 8-channel receiver and 8 fully programmable outputs for lights. So yeah, you got 2.6 watts or 80 milliamp draw on each one of them outputs, so shouldn't really have an issue. And as I say, these DUMBORC lighting kits seem to work really well with it. But yeah, thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.